In a distant corner of the galaxy, the Zorgons prepared for a bold invasion. They were a fierce alien race, known for their advanced technology and brutal tactics. The Zorgon Empire had conquered many worlds, and now their eyes were set on Earth. The Zorgon leaders, gathered in their massive war room, discussed their plans with excitement and arrogance. "These humans are weak," one commander declared, his voice booming. "They will fall before our might." Meanwhile, on Earth, a group of scientists was hard at work in a high-tech laboratory. They monitored the skies for unusual activity, studying the stars with their powerful telescopes. Dr. Elena, the lead scientist, noticed strange energy readings coming from space. She frowned, unsure of what to make of it. "These signals are unlike anything we've seen before," she said to her team. "We need to investigate further." As the Zorgon fleet assembled, millions of kilometers away from Earth, the alien ships looked like giant dark shadows against the stars. They were armed with powerful weapons, ready to unleash destruction. The Zorgons had sent scouts to gather information about humans, but the reports they received were misleading. The scouts had underestimated humanity, thinking they were primitive and easy to conquer. With their ships fully prepared, the Zorgon Emperor issued the command to launch the assault. "Let the invasion begin!" he shouted, filled with confidence. The fleet of sleek metallic ships surged forward, their engines roaring to life. As they traveled through space, the Zorgons reveled in their power, eager to claim Earth as their next trophy. Back on Earth, the strange energy readings alarmed Dr. Elena and her team. They quickly alerted the military, who dismissed their concerns at first. "There's nothing to worry about," a high-ranking officer said, waving his hand. "We have defenses in place. We can handle anything." But Dr. Elena felt a knot in her stomach. She insisted on monitoring the readings closely, sensing that something terrible was about to happen. Suddenly, the skies over major cities darkened as the Zorgon fleet entered Earth's atmosphere. People looked up in fear as they saw the alien ships hovering above them. The first blasts of energy weapons struck downtown areas, causing chaos and destruction. Buildings crumbled and flames erupted into the sky. The Zorgons were filled with excitement at their initial success, believing the humans were already defeated. In response, Earth's military scrambled to prepare for battle. Soldiers rushed to their posts, and fighter jets took to the skies. The situation quickly became desperate, but humans were resilient. Colonel Harris, a seasoned military leader, barked orders. "We must defend our cities! Rally the troops and prepare to counterattack!" The soldiers, filled with determination, readied their weapons and aircraft, eager to protect their home. As the first skirmishes began, humans fought back with courage. They used old tactics, combining them with modern technology to surprise the Zorgons. The aliens were taken aback by the unexpected resistance. Humans were not as weak as they had believed. With each explosion and each clash, the resolve of the soldiers grew stronger. Colonel Harris coordinated the defense from a command center, directing the fighter jets as they engaged the Zorgon ships. "Aim for the engines! Take them down!" he shouted, his heart racing with adrenaline. The skies lit up with flashes of laser fire as humans fought fiercely to protect their planet. In the midst of the chaos, Dr. Elena watched in horror from her lab. "We have to help them!" she cried, her voice trembling. Her team quickly joined her, working on a plan to provide the military with crucial data about the Zorgon ships. They hacked into the alien systems and discovered weak points that could be exploited. This knowledge could turn the tide of battle. But time was running out. As the first day of fighting raged on, both sides faced heavy losses. The Zorgons, initially overconfident, began to feel the sting of human resistance. They had expected an easy victory, but now they realized that humans were willing to fight for their home. The battle for Earth had begun, and neither side was ready to back down. As the dust settled and night fell, the lights of the alien ships flickered ominously in the dark sky. The humans, bruised but unbroken, stood ready for the challenges ahead. They knew the fight was far from over, and they were determined to protect their world at all costs. The stage was set for an epic struggle between two worlds, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. As dawn broke over Earth, the sky was still darkened by the shadows of the Zorgon fleet. The alien ships hovered menacingly above major cities, ready to strike again. On the ground, humans prepared for the worst. Colonel Harris, still in the command center, gathered his team. "We must brace ourselves," he said firmly. The Zorgons will not give up easily. In the heart of the city, panic swept through the streets. People ran for cover as they heard the low hum of alien ships. Dr. Elena and her team worked tirelessly to analyze the data they had gathered from the previous day's battle. They needed to find a way to protect their home. "We need to identify their weaknesses," Dr. Elena urged. "If we can do that, we might stand a chance against them." Meanwhile, in the command center, the Zorgon fleet prepared for the second assault. The Zorgon commander, General Krath, paced anxiously. "These humans have proven more resilient than we expected," he grumbled. "They must be crushed today. We will not let them stand in our way." His eyes glinted with anger as he turned to his crew. "Prepare the weapons. We will show them the full power of the Zorgon Empire." As the Zorgons readied their weapons, Colonel Harris received reports from the front lines. "Sir, the aliens are moving again," a soldier shouted. The colonel felt a chill run down his spine. "Get everyone into position. We need to intercept them before they can strike." The Zorgon ships began to fire at strategic locations across the city. Explosions erupted, shaking the ground and sending debris flying. Humans scrambled to defend their homes. Fighter jets soared into the air, engaging the Zorgon fleet in fierce dogfights. The sounds of gunfire and explosions filled the air as chaos erupted. In the midst of the fighting, young pilot Mia, a bright star among the military recruits, climbed into her jet. "I won't let them take our city," she declared to herself, determination shining in her eyes. As she took off, her heart raced. She had trained for this moment, and now it was time to prove herself. The first waves of fighters met the Zorgon ships in a dazzling display of aerial combat. Mia weaved through enemy fire, her hands steady on the controls. She spotted a Zorgon ship flanking her squadron and made her move. "I'll take that one down!" she shouted, targeting the ship with precision. With a squeeze of the trigger, her missiles shot out, striking the alien vessel. It exploded in a burst of flame, and Mia cheered, feeling a surge of hope. But the Zorgons were relentless. They regrouped and launched a counterattack, their ships firing at will. Colonel Harris directed the human forces, shouting orders and urging them to stay strong. "Keep fighting! We can't let them break our lines." His voice carried over the noise of battle, inspiring the soldiers to push forward. On the ground, civilians took shelter in basements and underground bunkers. Dr. Elena helped organize efforts to rescue those trapped in buildings. "We must save as many lives as we can," she urged her team, her heart heavy with worry. They worked quickly, coordinating with emergency services to evacuate the injured. Back in the air, Mia found herself in the middle of a fierce dogfight. She dodged enemy fire, adrenaline coursing through her veins. But the Zorgons were beginning to adapt, and their tactics grew more aggressive. One of Mia's fellow pilots was hit, and she watched helplessly as his jet spiraled downwards. "Stay strong! We can't give up!" she shouted into her comms, even as fear gripped her heart. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn. The humans, though outnumbered, fought fiercely. The coordination between soldiers and civilians showed their unity and strength. They shared information, supported each other, and worked together to fight back against the Zorgon invasion. Colonel Harris and Dr. Elena collaborated on a plan to use the intelligence they had gathered. "If we can strike their command ship, we might disrupt their entire fleet," she suggested. Harris nodded, knowing this could be their chance. "Let's rally our best pilots and launch a focused attack on their command ship." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the humans prepared for one last push. The skies were filled with fire and smoke, but their spirits were unbroken. They were not just fighting for their homes, but for their very survival. The first assault from the Zorgons had brought destruction, but it had also awakened a fierce determination in the hearts of humans. With newfound resolve, they set their sights on the Zorgon command ship. It was time to show the invaders that Earth would not fall without a fight. The battle was far from over, but the humans were ready to stand their ground. The fight for Earth had only just begun. As the smoke cleared from the battlefield, humans stood amidst the rubble of their cities, their spirits battered, but not broken. The attack from the Zorgons had been fierce, but it had ignited a fire in the hearts of the people. In homes and shelters, communities came together, ready to fight back against their alien invaders. Colonel Harris, rallying his forces, knew this was the moment to unite all of humanity. In the command center, Colonel Harris addressed his team. "We cannot fight this war alone. We need everyone, civilians, scientists, military personnel working together. This is our home and we will protect it." His words resonated deeply. The team, filled with determination, began to spread the word. Across the country, in schools, businesses, and community centers, people gathered to discuss their roles in the fight. Dr. Elena, motivated by the spirit of unity, organized a conference to share vital information about the Zorgons. "We must teach everyone about their technology and weaknesses," she explained to a group of eager volunteers. "Knowledge is our greatest weapon." Among the crowd, Mia, the young pilot, felt a surge of hope. Inspired by the brave faces around her, she took charge of training civilian pilots. "If we can teach more people to fly, we can strengthen our forces," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. Many signed up, eager to learn. They knew that the fight was far from over and each person counted. In a small town, a retired military officer named Tom gathered his neighbors. "We have skills to share," he said passionately. "We can organize ourselves into teams. Everyone has something to contribute, whether it's cooking meals for the soldiers, providing medical aid, or helping with logistics." The people nodded, feeling empowered. They began to form groups, ready to support the effort however they could. Meanwhile, back at the command center, Colonel Harris and Dr. Elena worked tirelessly to improve communication among the different factions. "We need a central system to coordinate our actions," she said. "If we can streamline our efforts, we'll be more effective against the Zorgons." The colonel agreed, and they implemented a communication network to keep everyone informed and connected. As the days passed, the spirit of unity grew stronger. People shared resources, skills, and knowledge. Civilians began to repair damaged infrastructure, and volunteers helped distribute food and supplies to those in need. The military forces trained new recruits, instilling courage and confidence in everyone who joined. The first signs of cooperation were evident when a group of engineers devised a plan to build makeshift weapons using everyday materials. They created defenses to protect their communities and shared ideas for counterattacks. "We may not have advanced technology, but we are resourceful," Tom declared at one meeting. The crowd cheered, their spirits lifted. In the skies, Mia and her trainees practiced flying techniques, honing their skills. She encouraged each pilot, pushing them to be their best. "We're not just flying, we're defending our home," she shouted as they soared through the clouds. The trainees felt empowered, knowing they were part of something bigger. As the humans united, their resolve grew. News spread of their efforts, inspiring other cities to join the fight. Local leaders began to form alliances, promising to share resources and strategies. A coalition of cities arose, united against the Zorgon threat. They planned to coordinate a massive counteroffensive, determined to reclaim their skies. In the midst of this newfound unity, Colonel Harris received urgent intel about a Zorgon supply ship heading towards a nearby city. This was their chance to strike a blow against the invaders. He quickly called an emergency meeting, gathering military leaders and civilian representatives. "We have to act quickly," he urged. "If we can intercept this supply ship, we can weaken their forces and show them that humanity stands together." With adrenaline pumping, the team sprang into action. Plans were drawn, roles were assigned, and the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. The united forces prepared for their first coordinated attack against the Zorgons. Mia's group of pilots was ready to lead the charge, and ground teams prepared to support them. As night fell, the coalition of humans gathered for a final briefing. Under the stars, they looked at one another, feeling a sense of purpose and determination. "Tonight we fight not just for our lives, but for our future," Colonel Harris declared, his voice steady. "Together, we will show the Zorgons that we will not be defeated." With their hearts pounding and spirits high, the united humans set forth into the night, ready to take on the Zorgons. They knew the road ahead would be tough, but with every step, they stood stronger together. The fight for Earth had evolved, and humanity was ready to rise against the invaders. The time for action had come. Under the cover of darkness, the united forces of humanity prepared for their counterattack against the Zorgons. The air buzzed with anticipation as Colonel Harris addressed his gathered troops and civilian volunteers. "Tonight we show the Zorgons that we are not afraid. We will take back what is ours." His voice echoed in the night, filling everyone with determination. Mia stood among her fellow pilots, her heart racing with excitement and nerves. She looked around at the faces of her teammates who were ready to follow her lead. "Remember what we practiced," she shouted. "Stay in formation and stick together. We can't let them divide us." The pilots nodded, ready to face whatever came their way. As the clock struck midnight, the plan began to unfold. The ground teams, armed with makeshift weapons and devices created from their gathered knowledge, moved quietly toward the designated zone. They set up barriers and defenses ready to ambush the Zorgon supply ship. The engineers worked quickly, determined to protect their city and their people. In the air, Mia and her squadron took to their jets, their engines roaring to life. The sky was clear, and they felt a sense of unity as they flew in formation. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," Mia reminded her team over the comms. "We're fighting for everyone down there." Her words inspired her fellow pilots, and they flew with confidence, knowing they had each other's backs. Meanwhile, the Zorgon supply ship approached, unaware of the trap waiting for it. General Krath monitored the mission from his command ship, confident that the humans would not dare to strike back. "They're just waiting for their fate," he sneered, completely unaware of the preparations being made against them. As the supply ship drew closer, the ground team signaled to Mia and her pilots. "It's time!" she shouted, her heart racing. The squadron dived from the clouds, launching their attack with fierce determination. The humans had planned for this moment, and they were ready to strike. Mia led the charge, her jet slicing through the sky. She targeted the supply ship's engines, determined to disable it. "Firing missiles!" she announced, and with a swift motion, she let them loose. The missiles flew straight and true, hitting the engines with a deafening explosion. The ship shuddered and began to veer off course. The rest of the squadron followed suit, firing their weapons and creating chaos among the Zorgon crew. The element of surprise was on their side, and the humans attacked with precision. They worked together, communicating seamlessly as they targeted the supply ship. "Stay sharp. We're making progress!" Mia urged, feeling the thrill of battle surge through her. On the ground, the ambush was in full swing. As the Zorgon ship attempted to land, the ground teams unleashed a barrage of fire, hitting the ship with powerful makeshift weapons. Explosions lit up the night, sending shockwaves through the area. Colonel Harris and his team moved swiftly, taking advantage of the confusion. The Zorgons quickly realized they were under attack. General Krath's face twisted with anger as he watched the chaos unfold. "Retreat! We must regroup," he commanded, but it was too late. The humans were relentless, and their united front was too strong. Mia and her squadron continued their assault from the air. They swooped down, dodging Zorgon fire and hitting the supply ship with missile after missile. The ground teams provided cover fire, and together they pushed forward, determined to take down their enemy. "We can't let them escape," Mia shouted, her determination unwavering. With the ship now disabled, panic spread among the Zorgon crew. They scrambled to regain control, but it was too late. The ground teams advanced, storming the supply ship and overwhelming the alien soldiers. Colonel Harris led the charge, shouting orders and motivating his team. "We will not back down! Fight for our home!" As the humans breached the ship, they fought fiercely, determined to capture the remaining Zorgon soldiers and gather valuable intelligence. The tide of the battle had turned, and the humans felt a surge of hope as they gained ground. In the sky, Mia took one last look at the chaos below. "We did it!" she exclaimed to her team, feeling a rush of pride. "We're turning the tables!" But even as they celebrated, they knew the fight was not over. The Zorgon Empire was vast, and this was only one battle in a larger war. General Krath, seething with anger and frustration, vowed revenge. "This isn't the end," he promised his crew. "We will crush these humans!" The humans, however, were not deterred. They had tasted victory and felt the strength of their unity. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, they knew that they had taken a significant step in their fight against the Zorgons. With renewed determination, they prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. The counterattack was just the beginning, and they would continue to stand together as one. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a warm light on the battle-scarred land. The humans had tasted victory, but they knew the fight against the Zorgon Empire was far from over. Colonel Harris gathered his team, determination shining in his eyes. "We have shown them our strength, but this is just the beginning. The Zorgons will retaliate, and we need to be ready for the final battle." In the command center, plans were drawn. The intelligence gathered from the captured Zorgon soldiers revealed a massive invasion fleet headed for Earth. General Krath was leading the charge, and he was furious after the loss of the supply ship. "We must prepare for their arrival," Dr. Elena said, her voice steady. "We need to fortify our defenses and gather every resource we have." The atmosphere was tense but charged with purpose. Mia, now a seasoned pilot, stood with her fellow airmen. "We've come too far to back down now," she told her team. "We need to protect our home and our families. Let's show the Zorgons that we are ready." Her words ignited a fire within the group, and they nodded in agreement. As the day wore on, people from every corner of Earth rallied to the cause. Citizens volunteered for defense positions, engineers worked on enhancing their weapons, and scientists developed new strategies to counter the Zorgon technology. The world was united in a way it had never been before. Finally, the day of the final battle arrived. The sky darkened as the Zorgon fleet approached, enormous ships looming like shadows overhead. Colonel Harris stood on the command deck, watching the incoming threat. "This is it! Everyone to your positions!" he shouted, his voice booming through the chaos. The humans had prepared defensive lines with makeshift barriers and artillery. Mia and her squadron took to the skies, ready to face the invading ships. As they ascended, Mia felt a rush of adrenaline. "Let's show them what we can do," she called to her team. They took formation, ready to defend their home with everything they had. As the Zorgon ships descended, the humans opened fire. Explosions lit up the sky and chaos erupted. Mia led her pilots in a daring maneuver, swooping low to avoid enemy fire while targeting the engines of the lead ship. "Aim for their weak spots," she commanded, focusing all her energy on the task ahead. On the ground, Colonel Harris coordinated the defense. He watched as Zorgon soldiers began to deploy from their ships, ready to invade. "Hold the line," he yelled, leading his troops into battle. The clash between humans and Zorgons was fierce, with gunfire echoing through the air and the ground shaking beneath them. Mia's squadron was in the thick of the fight, dodging enemy fire and launching missiles with precision. "We can't let them land!" she shouted, determination in her voice. The pilots worked together, taking out ship after ship, but the Zorgon forces kept coming. The battle raged on, and it was clear the humans were holding their ground. But General Krath had a trick up his sleeve. He activated a powerful weapon on the flagship, a devastating beam aimed straight at the heart of the human defenses. "Fire!" he commanded, and a brilliant flash erupted, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The beam struck the ground, causing massive destruction. Colonel Harris watched in horror as the blast tore through their defenses. "We need to stop that weapon," he shouted. "Mia, can you get to the flagship?" "On it," Mia replied, her heart racing. She rallied her squadron and led a daring attack toward the flagship. "We have to destroy that weapon." The pilots flew through a hail of fire, dodging enemy blasts as they approached their target. As they neared the flagship, Mia spotted the weapon's power source glowing ominously. "This is it!" she yelled. With a steady hand, she aimed her missiles and fired. The missiles struck true, hitting the power source and causing a massive explosion. The flagship shuddered violently, and panic spread among the Zorgon ranks. "They're losing control!" Mia shouted, feeling a surge of hope. The humans pressed their advantage, attacking with renewed vigor as the Zorgon forces began to falter. On the ground, Colonel Harris saw the tide turning. "Now's our chance! Push forward," he ordered, and the humans advanced, driving the Zorgons back. The united forces fought with everything they had, fueled by their desire to protect their home. As the battle reached its climax, the remaining Zorgon ships began to retreat. General Krath, realizing defeat was imminent, shouted orders to fall back. The humans cheered as the enemy fled, their hearts filled with joy. They had done it. They had defended Earth against the Zorgon Empire. Exhausted but triumphant, Mia and her squadron flew back to join their comrades on the ground. Colonel Harris met them with a proud smile. "You all fought bravely. Today we stood united and emerged victorious." The humans celebrated their hard-won victory, knowing that they had come together in the face of danger and emerged stronger than ever. The final battle was over, but the spirit of unity and resilience lived on. They had shown the Zorgons that humanity would not be defeated and that Earth was worth fighting for.